time, probably less than 2 years, where I finally, got relieved of my corporate life stresses and got to work in a church, which, guess what? There were stresses there too. Anyway, and so not our whole time here wasn't all pleasant. There was some real stress here. But again, the Uncle Bud that you're talking about here was the same guy that I sat in an office with and went through hard times in the church he loved, as well, and rock solid. And it's a great memory. We'd maybe come back from a staff meeting or something, and he'd go, "Well, what do you think?" I'm like, "I don't know. What do you think?" Anyway, so he didn't have. He was really as he was. He didn't have the answers for everything, but of course he knew that it would all work out in the end. Anyway, the other thought that I have sitting here is that we are so blessed to have people like this who have watched all our lives. And I think to myself, do you realize that there's many people in the world who never have lives to look at this, and we have multiple. Right. So as a result, I think of whom much is given, much is required. Right. The neat thing is, of course, too, that we've watched Uncle Bud from many stages. I mean, like Randy said, you all are looking a lot older than I remember. Anyway, so that means that we've watched Uncle Bud for 40, 50, whatever years through the different stages, and now we've watched him to the very end. And what a blessing it is to have seen that. The other thing that I'll say is, so really it's the legacy of being able to watch someone live for God your whole life long in front of you. Bud and Waverly, I think we kind of struck up a special relationship with them when they moved to the cities. And I remember Auntie Waverly moving into that house in North Minneapolis there, at Robbinsdale, and we shut the door after we'd helped moving, and she said, "Oh, I think this is going to be the last time." Was that ever hilarious? Because how many more times was it after that? Anyway, she was hoping. Anyway, but our family started to connect a little bit more there, and I have to say, for Paul and I, one of the things was, they raised 3 boys, and we were in the middle of trying to raise 3 boys or 4 boys, and anyway, and they were encouraging, and they'd say, "You know what, you're doing a good job," or and we could ask them, and that's just really a lot. That's a lot to treasure there, and so I just want to thank you both, and thank the Lord for Uncle Bud's willingness to just be who God created him to be. Yeah.
Anybody else? Uncle Art.
My name is Art, and I'm married to Waverly's sister Beth. The thing I remember about Bud is his living example to me. He was always a good, strong character. He was a good, strong Christian. And when I first met the family, I just wanted to reach a point of feeling accepted. And when I did reach that point, I could see it in Bud that he was sharing my acceptance into the family. And that if he could say anything, he would look at me and say, "Beth, I think you made a good choice." The thing of it was, he was evaluating my Christian walk. He wanted to know if I was really a true Christian, if I stood for the values of God. And when he saw that in me, I could see the acceptance in Bud's eyes, that he really appreciated me and treated me as a very good family member, part of the family. He always made me feel welcome. Whenever I went to their house, I always felt welcome. Right. And I saw Waverly and Bud as a team, working together, doing things together, loving each other, and being an example for Beth and I. What a privilege to just be a part of that, and to be accepted by the family. That's right. Brent, I appreciate you, and I appreciate Wayne and your family. It's just, I'm there. And we're all Christians, and we all love one another. And I thank Bud for being a living example to me and accepting me into the family, because it made me feel good. Amen.
one of the things that, one of the most important things for me as the oldest son, all three of us saw in our dad, and which has been referred to so many times already, is I remember getting up in the morning as a child, and the first thing I would almost always see with my dad is he would be wherever we lived, and it was, as you can tell, it was a variety of different places. I've tried to change that for myself, but he would always be in prayer, reading the Bible. That would be like the first thing of the day, and that has been a habit that I have picked up and carried. All three of us sons actually carried it, and it really set our lives on such a firm foundation. And I'm so thankful for the example that he set for us. He made it very easy for us to serve the Lord, because he not only demonstrated it, taught it, he lived it, and we are now been given a responsibility for not only our generation, but future generations. You know, there's a book, I don't know how many have read it, but it's called Anchorman. And it basically tells men how to influence their lives, influence their families for Christ for 100 years. And I think of my dad, and then also Grandpa Hanson, who I never had really, I was too young when he died. But I have had the chance to read some of the things that he wrote, and could definitely pick up, I mean, his heart for the Lord in some of the scriptures he shared. And I think back to that, to, you know, Edward and Esther when Edward came to this country from Norway, and the life that they began to set out, you know, in the early 20th century. And now here we are, over 100, almost 100 years later, and look at the impact of two people who chose to serve the Lord. Yeah. I mean, it's a powerful legacy. And as I was thinking about what to share, and so many of you have shared some wonderful things, and I don't want to share long, because I know that's kind of the preacher's tendency. We have a lot of preachers in this family, even if you aren't technically called one. I love one of my dad's lines. He said, "I never intended to be the Levite of the family," but that's kind of what happened. You know, he was a minister, and all three of his sons ended up, and I know he had two brothers who were pastors as well. But the verse that kept coming to me for this time here tonight was Psalm 145:4. It says, very simple scripture: one generation will commend your works to another. They will tell of your mighty acts. One generation will commend your works to another. They will tell of your mighty acts. And I thought of that, and of course I've had times, you know, of grieving over the last week, and times of crying, all those different things, which is normal for us to do. But it's kind of shifted now more to looking at his life and his legacy of over 50 years of marriage and ministry. And it's caused me to think of, okay, well, what kind of legacy now are we going to leave? What are we going to do with that? And it's already been referred to by some who've talked. And I really believe that it's God's intention that one generation would build upon another, and then upon another, and then upon another. And I don't believe it was ever God's intention, as we look at Scripture, that one generation would have to start over again. I think a classic example in Scripture is David and Solomon. When David prepared